Greetings, mind crafters. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am so pumped to talk about another one. I have a lot of favorite topics, honestly, but I'm revisiting the Fast Mind Club again, which is kind of code for ADHD. Since I choose to, it admits it's just a misnomer, and being in the Fast Mind Club myself, see, my mind is faster than my mouth. That's what we're talking about. It's just full of, the misnomer is just shaming and stupid. So I renamed it myself. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And just a while back, I wrote an article for Psychology Today about the core four traits of ADHD explained. And I'm saying this not to be braggy because I'm not even into that. It got over 67,000 views pretty fast. And the reason is there are so many of us fast mind clubbers out there, whether it's you yourself, your partner, your kids, a best friend, or maybe a parent that, clearly got a lot of attention for a reason. And so I thought I would kind of revisit that article with, conversation via podcast, right? And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get started right now. And I'll also share with you, I think many of my listeners know, but if you don't, I did a TED talk on, ADHD as well. And it's called the double-edged sword. We'll get into that later. Because right now I just want to stick to the core four because a lot of people are really stuck in the old, sort of definitions of what, was termed ADHD. And it's relatively obviously the fast mind wiring is not new itself. It's just that, the world sort of just coming to grips with, you don't have to be, little 8-year-old Dennis the Menace to have it for one. So we're going to get all that. We're going to get started and get all this going right now. So right away, I started out with saying, there's so much out there already on ADHD. And it's amazing how people are still, pretty unclear about what's really going on in our fast minds. And, often all we need is the basic gist to get, to get it enough for there to be positive change. And I think that's true for most things. And I would say that above all, really what I want to convey here is that we are different, not deficient. And one of my talks, I don't know, I've done a whole bunch on the fast minders. And when I talk about the whole thing about, we're not deficient, right? Right away with the misnomer thing with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, right? We'll keep the attention because that's what we're talking about. Anybody who is in the fast mind club certainly knows that there's no deficit going on. It's not about not being able to pay attention. It's that we're paying attention to everything. It's a quick shift in attention just all day long. Like sometimes I feel like my head is, I'm walking around with like a beehive on my neck instead of a head. So attention deficit hyperactivity. I don't know if at least, I don't even think a child would want to be called hyperactive, but certainly at a fabulous 58 now, I would prefer to be called high energy, which is what I am. I have tons of energy. Hyperactive makes me think of somebody who's, talks too much, is annoying, cutting people off constantly, even though interrupting is part of what we struggle with. But somebody who's, it's like has like a negative vibe to it. Versus high energy, I picture somebody bouncing in the yoga pants and upbeat and positive and smiling and all that good stuff. And well, hold on because there went the phone. All right, sorry about the little inconvenience. Those of you, a little inconvenience. Those of you who listen to me frequently know I don't edit much unless I slip and something doesn't come out right. Never intentional, of course. But that's not very often. And because I don't edit all that, because we're having a conversation. If you were all in my living room with me, which is what I feel like right now, I'm on the couch with the fire going, little Giovanni, the golden retriever here, and it's blustery outside. And this is a conversation, so the phone does ring sometimes. So anyway, okay, so ADHD, we got to the ADHD disorder. This is the main problema because disorder is a shame word, right? And I ask my students sometimes, let's just do like a quick go around. And when I say the word disorder, what do you say? And they right away they rattle off flawed, defective, deficient, broken, not enough. And so not never. I don't use that word very often I don't use polarized words because they don't exist in reality usually. Disorder, I have yet okay, I've yet to have a student in years and years. I've been there 13 years at Champlain, which I love. I've yet to have a student come up with a positive term or synonym or anything for the word disorder. It's just a shame word. So if it's not enough to struggle with ADHD or anxiety or depression or bipolar or whatever, it's not enough to already, be different and dealing with something else. Now we get a slapped with the word disorder, which says you're broken and flawed and defective. I mean, it's really not helpful, honestly. And in fact, most of us, when we are um given support no matter what we're dealing with. In fact, most of us do just fine, right? So this is all, can be all like just pretty stupid to use that word. So anyway, really what's different about us is our executive functioning systems. We're wired differently, which means their abilities to concentrate, engage, plan, organize, control impulses. That's a biggie for me, to be truthful. And express emotions are also just going to look different. And like I just said, we have a surplus of attention, not a deficit. Trust me on that one. So to begin with, these we're getting into the core four here. So the first one is motivation. And so to begin, there's quite a difference in how those of us in the Fast Mind Club are motivated. And the majority of the neurotypical world is motivated by three things: importance, rewards, and consequences. The neurotypicals will really get a move on when they're made aware, by a parent or a partner or a boss that, whatever said task is important for a project. And it's like, maybe even there's a time crunch, right? Just time sensitive. We're also not overly responsible to scarcity commentary. So, meaning, if you don't hurry up, this is going to happen. If you don't hurry up, this is going to run out. If you don't, it kind of nudging us, whatever, basically it's like, kind of like when Dorothy flips over the little hourglass in the tower, like hustle or bad things going to happen. We don't really respond to that too much. And then I wrote here, unless we're about ready to purchase a brand new sexy red Jeep, and there it is, someone right behind us is ready to take it for a test drive, and then I might cave into that. I'm just saying. Rewards don't carry much weight either. This is important to remember with whether it's your partner, your parent, but your kids, with the grades thing. So rewards don't carry much weight either, such as grades, okay, all the way up through college, paychecks, promotions, or even praise, as we are not extrinsically motivated. This is so huge. All of those things our external approval. They're outside of us, and we don't respond to that very much. In fact, we are very, very intrinsically motivated. We are motivated from the inside out. So if you're trying to motivate your little ADHD, or we're gonna say your little fast mind clubber, it doesn't mean it won't work in the short term because out of fear, which isn't a great way to motivate anyone, or disappointment, also not a good way to motivate anyone. We're not going to respond to that very well to A's and B's and paychecks, promotions, and praise. That's just how it is. Consequences for not completing the said project could possibly be the least motivating of the three. We are simply just not wired this way. Like I said, in the short term, especially if it's a child and you're, motivating them, or you're going to be disappointed, or that'll work in the short term, but it sure as heck isn't going to get you very far. Never mind the self-esteem damage that happens when we motivate that way. And then realizing, I'm not judging parents right now. We have the Fab Five, are all young adults now, and parenting, we're all doing the best we can. So I'm just sort of putting that out there. And then I say, of course, as adults, we are well aware of how the world works, right? We can and do conform to a degree in order to manage the neurotypical playing field for a period of time, though, right? Although these habits don't tend to stick without the external supports in place. Nor is this route very enjoyable. I say basically we're all born with I love this part. We're all born with a neurotypical owner's manual that is chock full of neurotypical rules, which make little, if any, sense to our busy minds. As adults, when we fall short, emphasis on when we fall short, we are often labeled as immature and irresponsible. And I cannot tell you how many times I've heard those words, and in various ways. This lands us right back into the blame shame game with which we are all too familiar, and thankfully, the Fast Mind Club is gaining some, positive momentum, which is very much welcomed, at least by me, because there's definitely been a lot of negative there because, like I said, we're born into this world, kind of forced into it, they filter things through a neurotypical filter, which we don't have. And when we fall short from all of that as kids, as teenagers, as young adults, and as seasoned adults, trying to adult when it looks easy for everybody else, keep the bills paid, keep up with the, like the mortgage, keep up with this, keep up with that, keep up with the PTO meetings, and we often do, in and out we do, and then but it's absolutely exhausting. And when we don't, it's very shaming because what's different from being a child is the expectations are different on a grown up, and they're being shamed too, not to take away the expectations that, now you're an adult. Like, what's your excuse? You're just immature and you're just irresponsible. It's a horrible thing to say or even insinuate to anyone. And I think we're getting better with it because there's more awareness now, but I think it's got a long way to go yet. So there we go. Okay, so here's we get to the second one. So the motivation piece, that was the first one of the core four. The second one is we fast minders operate on an interest based nervous system. And so this is another really important aspect of what most people call ADHD that is important for most of us in our lives to understand because we, the Fast Mind Club, run on this high octane interest based nervous system. We run on passion. So this means we become extremely motivated when we are genuinely interested in something. This is why I think we're often called immature and irresponsible because, oh, well, adults don't have to, we all have to do things we don't like to do. You don't think we know that? It's just really, really hard for us. If you ever think of this as a neurotypical, when the next time you have a sneeze, like right there, you can feel it in your nose, all the tinglies. Try to hold that in. Okay, not very easy. Well, you know what? We walk around feeling like that all day long. And what did I say here? So this means we become extremely motivated when we are genuinely interested in something, so much so that we slide into an ADHD tunnel vision in a way, as we cannot break free from what we are doing. This is actually, well, this can go either way. That's hence my TEDx talk on the double-edged sword, because this can get us in trouble because we're interested in whatever and we ignore everything else, and then everything else goes down the pooper because we neglected those things because we got into this tunnel. We're following this shiny object. We want to write a new book. We want to write a new book. We want to do this. We want to do that. We want to road trip, and we just take off when we're in college, and then was there a final exam? I forgot. Was there a paper due? I forgot. So it can definitely go south and does go south. The flip side of that, though, is that when we're in this ADHD tunnel vision, there is no stopping us because we're in creative mode. So we are in the zone. It's almost like we are energized by electric passion. I can't even put words to it. That's the closest thing I could come up with was electric passion. The feeling is unlike any other and any other, and the one that is one that is difficult to put into words. We are captivated. We are captivated by passion, and we feel at one with the task and the universe in general. Basically, we feel like we have the world by the ass, and we do when we're in that when that tunnel vision. We absolutely do. There are many CEOs. I'm thinking of. I forget his name now. It's probably in this article somewhere. David something. CEO of JetBlue. I think it is in this article when we get down farther. Lots of creatives. That is probably the biggest gift we bring to the world as the Fast Mind Club is we are super creative and innovative. We are big idea, big sky people, and not so much with the details, but we have the big ideas. Corporations are finally wising up and capitalizing on this gift rather than shaming us for needing to be interested in something like a child. God, if I've heard that once, I've heard it a gazillion times. To get the job done, or tagging us with the famous Ben and Jerry's bumper sticker, which says, "If it's not fun, why do it?" Our point exactly. Remember, I loved writing that part. So yeah, because we are generally very happy-go-lucky, We're generally also very forgiving, mostly because we won't remember it happened anyway. And yeah, we are definitely fun loving and having a great time in this world. So I guess from the Fast Mind Club perspective, the things we struggle with, are not nearly as important as the gifts we bring to the world. That's for sure. Just our happy-go-luckiness and lighthearted kind of demeanor is also, I think, contributing to the world. And that's a pretty general statement. I realize that, but most everybody I know in the club is pretty. I'm not saying high energy and very easygoing though at the same time. Sounds like an oxymoron, but it really isn't. This certainly does not mean ignoring adult responsibilities or dodging accountability is okay. We're not, I mean, when I say to my students who are in the club, now that I've outed myself, they kind of, it's like a faucet I can't shut off, which is great. I don't want to shut them off. So that's the good news. But I explain to them that it's an explanation, not an excuse, which is true for anything extra to deal with. We need to take accountability, and by telling people, sharing with people our wiring difference, with safe people, not the judgers out there. They're not worthy of the knowledge, but the safe people. Then the idea is hopefully they can be supportive, a little more patient, maybe. But it's still not meant to be an excuse. We still gotta do what we have to do, right? So what this means is for us to be aware of our unique wiring and just to create our own operator's manual. And many of us have done this. Oh, here we go. I knew it was here someplace. Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast, right? Leonardo da Vinci, one of my favorites. Whoopi Goldberg, also one of my favorites. Jim Carrey, also a fan, as well as the CEO of JetBlue, David Nealman. I couldn't get that last name. There it is, David Nealman. Just to name a few. We create, we innovate, and we invent. This is what we do best. Okay, now the third one out of the core four is intense emotionality. And, this just barely made it into the DSM 5. Um, and people have been trying for a long time. And I forget if I mentioned Tom Brown in this article either, but I don't think I do. Maybe I do. I don't know. Anyway, he's one of the leading experts on the fast minders in the US, and I had the pleasure of sitting next to him at a conference in Boston, and he's done tons of work with this, and he's kind. I chatted with him for quite a while afterwards. He's kind, and he's in the right field because he's just very empathetic and also very intelligent and knowledgeable all in one. Just what a good person. So anyway, intense emotionality, I guess where I was going with that is his books. He's written several. I can't rattle them all off. I own them all. Maybe not all at this point, but I own several. He touches on this, and it's just wonderfully validating. So anyway, as we are passionate by nature, the ADHDers are very, very passionate by nature. Most of our thoughts and feelings follow suit. So we can be intense and we can get stuck in our emotions due to differences in our executive functioning systems. This is often misdiagnosed as a mood disorder because this is what many therapists are trained to look for rather than the brief and intense emotionality that often accompanies ADHD. And my youngest and I, my youngest is in the club too, and we often attribute it. It's kind of like if you've ever had the good fortune of sitting on the beach, or maybe not on the beach, but in a screened in porch on the beach, watching a thunderstorm roll in. That's what it's like. It's just a quick rumble and intense, and then it's over, and we usually don't even remember because it's just our memories are like we just like did that. We just kind of keep moving forward. And again, we're not saying dodge accountability. Certainly, if we hurt somebody's feelings, we need to make up for that and work at not doing it again. We're not saying that. Though our regular getting stuckness, because it may not necessarily be at anybody. In fact, usually it isn't. At least with my youngest and I, we call them tornadoes. They can be at people. Sometimes they're just out in the air. For me, my most difficult negative emotion to handle and manage well is frustration. So it's often not at anybody. It's just I want it faster than it's happening, and it's just hard for me not to just go on a little rant. And it's not saying hurtful things at people usually. Thank goodness. Thankfully, it's just this built up that has to come out somewhere. So thankfully, I'm very active, and I'll go on a run or ski or whatever, depending on the season, or just go on a walk or whatever. But we do get stuck, and it's hard for us to get unstuck. It's really tough for it to get unstuck. It almost has to go its course. So, and then I continue with this whole mood disorder thing. So, mood disorders typically take on a life of their own and last much longer. That is the big diff. Okay. Okay. Excuse me. Because think the brief thunderstorm versus somebody who's cycling, who's bipolar 1 or bipolar 2 or cyclothymic or dysthymic. They are going to cycle. We're also not cycling. It's not an up and down. It's just an up. It's just like It's not like it's not like a manic thing and then we sink in depression. It's not anything like that. That's why it's very important for a therapist to be on top of their game, because all it is an emotional stuckness that will pass pretty quickly. And it's not like a manic and then a depressed thing. It's not that at all. And then, so the intense moods of the ADHD are more like, I already said this, summer thunderstorm on the beach. They come fast when triggered by an event, and then just as quickly they leave. So we get over things quickly and often forget that they happen. So the fourth one now is the H. The H in ADHD stands for hyperactive, which again, I personally, a fabulous 58, would rather prefer to refer to as high energy. I don't think any adult appreciates being referred to as hyperactive, and I really doubt a child was actually. So what's important to understand is that if any of you in our lives are wonderful partners, wonderful, because we'll say away from little kids, that's totally different. People can actually, old enough to get it. So let's say young adults and partners and rest of the rest of the adult family members and colleagues and coworkers and people involved with you in clubs, whatever it is you're doing. What's important to understand is that if you're seeing the H externally, like if you're noticing how high energy we are, more than likely it's 10 times worse on the inside. And it's interesting because I have had it in my mind to kind of do the core four traits explained again of ADHD again. And last night my husband calls it an ADHD, so did I call it an ADHD day too. Yesterday, and obviously I live with it every day, but some days I have enough energy to light up a small village. And yesterday was one of those days, and it was actually kind of funny. Like I was just flying around this house, like as if I were in Star Wars on like a hoverboard or something. Just and my husband's like, "Oh my god," but he was laughing because I wouldn't shut up, but it was all very ple pleasant conversation, but oh my gosh, but, like, if he's seeing that on the outside, he has no idea how the charge I was feeling on the inside. I could hardly be in my own skin, and obviously you can't really opt out of that. It's like you feel almost kinda trapped. You just wanna leap out and fly around, circle, Mars and Pluto, whatever, see what's going on there, and then come back, but you can't. So everybody in your atmosphere has the good fortune of experiencing your high energy too. So basically there's pretty high amount of internal hyper arousal going on. So when we're having it as particular in orbit day, if you can possibly if you want to check out and go in another room or go on a walk or something, we kind of know to go on a walk usually, or I usually want to run. If you could try your best to be patient with us, because it's 10 times harder for us on the inside than it is for you. It's just good to have that knowledge. What else am I saying? Okay, so this can be very hard for us to manage because we often feel we cannot relax. That's another issue. We are often relaxation shamed. My very wonderful husband and soulmate, even he learned this years ago. He's past it now, but he used to say, "Relax. Can't you just sit down and watch a movie, whatever?" I don't remember. And relaxation shame. This again years ago because he gets it now. That's not how we relax. And people relax just like people do lots of things differently. They exercise differently, right? What we like to eat is different. We also relax differently. And sitting down on a couch watching some movie is not my idea of relaxing. I can do it if it's super engaging, like I love Harry Potter. Although I don't go to the movies. I do not go to the regular movies because they drive me insane. All the popcorn chewing and crackling and getting up and down, and now people are on their phones, which drives me absolutely nuts. So I relax by skiing and running when in motion, basically. Also, I like Tai Chi. So um, okay, so I talked about being relaxation shamed. Oh, actually, I wrote this down here. Why can't you just sit and watch TV with us? And my answer, let me see, because I'd rather stick pins in my toes. That's actually what I wrote in the Psychology Today article. Hyperarousal can also be frustrating, as it often feels that our mind just has no shut off switch. Now, that is my everyday, though, as mentioned yesterday, it was one of those off the chart in orbit days. I mean, I was just circling the Milky Way galaxy for interesting, shiny objects, and was not really able to land until about halfway through this morning. It's just really kind of how it works. So, for the neurotypicals in our lives, just getting the basic gist of how our lightning fast hard drive operates can be a huge catalyst for positive and lasting change. So, that is it for right now. I would just like to throw a shout out to all of you for listening, because this is just, I can't tell you how much I enjoy doing this podcast, and I'm very grateful to all my listeners who use their life minutes in this way to be part of these conversations. And that's really it. With gratitude, this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful and blustery Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.